Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Brave Cat here once again with another Frontier Signals update. Let me know how that intro looked. I just made it, and I think it turned out pretty well. But let's just get right into things here. So looking at the space weather side, things are totally in the green, very calm, except we do have that very large coronal hole ready to face us here in the next couple days. And then a couple days after that is when we'll expect to see the actual coronal hole stream. So all the solar wind data here has pretty much been on the downtrend. But taking a look at this thing here, it is going to be kind of monstrous. So it does have a lot of northern facing components, but there is also more of a central facing component. So a lot of it is going to hit us pretty much head on here. And we are definitely going to get some sort of disturbances in the magnetic field. And, if I had to guess, I would say we're going to get at least a G1 storm from this, if not maybe even a G2 storm, just depending on how the solar energy actually couples with the magnetic field. But, we're going to have that to look forward to in the next couple of days, which will also most likely bring some seismic activity with it. So there's actually been some interesting developments there. There was actually a pretty decently sized 5.6, I believe, struck over here in Nevada. So it is right over here, just on the other side of this mountain range, over here in Nevada. And it is pretty much right by this lake called Tehuantán Reservoir. I don't know how to pronounce that. And so there's a ton of events here, including the 5, with a whole bunch of tremors in the whole area. So it looks like something has definitely kind of broke over here. And, we could expect to see even more developments as well. And there's been a 4 somewhat notable up here in Ottawa. And, if we take a look at the North American Craton map right here, so this we can actually see the different cratons and plate boundaries in North America here. So you've got, this in the green, which is pretty much the newest and probably the most, vulnerable right along the major fault boundary. And then we have this little deformed craton right in between that and the main craton, which, this area in the brown or orange is the most stable part of it. And so it looks like that 4 in Canada happened kind of right on the edge over here. And then we see the 5.6 kind of struck, right off of the border of the deformed craton over here in Nevada. And, over here is where we see most of the activity in the green. So that is what we're looking like in comparison to the actual plate boundaries. That's pretty much why these arrows are here, because it just follows that craton boundary and goes up here. So it actually does pretty much line up right spot on with these arrows. But, taking a look at all this going on here, I could definitely see even more progression, especially as we're about to have this coronal hole stream hit us. So I think, the West Coast in general might be a bit of a warning spot for potential larger events here. Hopefully not exactly the big one, but, I could see something in the 6 or even 7 range happening while that coronal hole stream happens. But I guess we'll just have to see to find out. And, with that, I'm also going to try to be posting a little bit more of a deep dive video on earthquakes, because, well, I've been doing a bit more research, and, well, I've been following Dutch Synths for quite a long time, since roughly when I got out of high school. So over the years, there was a little bit of a bias towards his theories, but honestly, more recently, I've been seeing a bit of a different picture play out, and it seems like some of his theories are just not exactly too accurate. They're very good in terms of like general observations for how these earthquakes propagate, especially over here in the Pacific. But I think I have a little bit of a different idea that is a bit closer to, actual scientifically accepted theories on plate tectonics. So, I'm looking to put that together and have something, have a way to, I guess, visualize how these main plate boundaries actually interact with each other. So, just look forward to that. But with that, over the week or so, we've had definitely quite a bit of fives going across the entire Pacific, which isn't too out of the ordinary. But, that pressure seems to be creeping in over here to the West Coast. So we definitely want to keep an eye on that. And over here in Europe, things have more or less kind of stayed the same, but we've had some of these threes going a little bit further inland here, including a new 3.7 over by the Sicilian Strait. Nothing going on by the volcanoes, which is a good sign. That's really all we're worried about over there. So overall, things are actually fairly calm, but like I said, that is going to change here in the next couple days when we get that coronal stream to shake things up. And as well, over here on the tremor map, things have pretty much taken a very sharp decline in the number of slow slip events. So that also kind of contributes to, what we're seeing over here with earthquakes like this striking, even though this, it didn't happen on the West Coast. So it's probably a little bit more unrelated to what's going on with this plate. But I suppose we could actually just take a look at the area. So when we look up that 5.6 and the other tremors over there, brings us right here over by Silver Springs. And it does look like we have a whole bunch of old kind of lava butte areas. So that does actually kind of check out here. Not really expecting to see much else around here, really. Not exactly sure if there was any nuclear testing going on over here like there is in many parts of Nevada. But, that may be the case. Although it is on like the very kind of, western side bordering with California over here. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure if there was any nuke testing going on that would contribute to, perhaps some weak points in the crust, but something has definitely given away there from the stress in that region. So, we could see that reflected on other places here, again with the swarm up over here by San Francisco and all the activity that goes on down here as well. And then, of course, we've had more stuff going on over here in Texas. It just keeps kind of spreading out. So, at first I was seeing this happen more localized right here. It's crossed the border. It's gone over here where these other drill points are and whatnot. So, and even down here more south. So it looks like there's definitely a lot of kind of seismic disruptions going on with these stress points going off. But yeah, so hopefully we don't have anything too major, but that's what we got pretty much down the pipeline. Yeah, like I said, Italy, not too much going on there. The 3 was all the way down there, and the volcanic locations are pretty good. And then looking at the other volcanic activity going on, there's a couple on here that I don't really see too often. So there's this one by Norway. It's on an island called Jan Mayen, however you say that. And it looks like this has not had any full-on eruptions since about 1985. And previously it did reach a VEI of 4, which is a fairly major eruption. And since then it hasn't had anything close to that. So I'm kind of wondering if we might see an actual eruption out of here again soon. And it does kind of seem possible here. It seems like it has, potential eruptions every, at least every 100 years or so. So it kind of looks like it is due for something, but, it's all the way over here kind of in the ocean. It's actually not even really close to Norway. It's like right in between Greenland, Norway, and Iceland. So if it does go off, that's not really too big of an issue. And then we also had another volcano up here in the Alaskan Aleutian Island chain. This one, just very minor activity, so not even considered an eruption. But it did have an ash plume, I believe. Or maybe not. No, it's kind of just declined, so there was some, very minor emissions and thermal anomalies, a couple of explosions, and that's about it. So it doesn't look like that's actually really anything. And then we just have the usual stuff going on here. And then with that volcano in France still having its lava flows, but nothing major there. So I think that'll pretty much wrap things up for today. Pretty simple. Take one last little look here at the magnetogram. So with that, I will sign things off here. So hope y'all enjoyed, got something out of it. Please like and subscribe for more. Share this video if you dare. And as always, I will catch you all in the next.